let's go in.
Hello, hello, hello. Hi, everybody. I cannot wait for you to turn on your cameras so I can see your beautiful smiling faces. Hello, Linda. Hello, Janet. Hello, Katie and Tara and Larry. Wonderful. I love you and I'm with you too. Hi, Susan and Joseph and Bridget. Oh my gosh, it's so good to see you. I wish that we could spotlight each one of you as I said your name.
Hello.
There we go. Perfect. Today is July 23rd, 2023, and we come together to discuss the principles of this incredible book as we apply these principles. Ancient Secrets of a Master Healer. We are just really amazed at what this book can do. But today we have a very special guest. I should say guests. We have Gary Malkin and we have Hope Fitzgerald, and we'll be able to announce them really soon. I'm so excited that they're here. Carol, do you have some announcements you'd like to give?
Oh, sure. First of all, welcome everybody. And if you're new here today, we'd love for you to put in the chat that this is your first time and where you're from. That would be lovely to see. We have a special program kicking off in August, and it's called Ancient Secrets 101. And it's kind of for people who are new to the community, or could be for those who've been here for years and just want to brush up on the basics from the book, so that we're going deeper into those, understanding them, applying them to our daily lives for health and happiness, well-being. And it's only 4 weeks. And it's going to be running 2 days a week, so you can pick a morning or an evening slot, depending on where in the world is most convenient for you, Wednesday or Thursday. And we'll have all that information will be for you on the website where you can register. And Cornelia, can you talk about specifics on registration and all those other details?
We will put the link for, it's again happening on Kajabi, so I will put in the link in the chat box in a short moment, but I'm still doing something else, but you will see it, and we will definitely see it when you, I will definitely say that is for 101 on Kajabi. And I will also put in the code because everyone can get the summer special. The code is summer23, and so you get $50 off. Instead of 97, it will be only 47. And we are starting on the 9th or 10th, depending which day you choose in August. So that's it for the moment. And I will see what, when I'm ready then to share the link.
Oh, thank you, Cornelia. And for those who don't know, Kajabi is a platform that we use for our different programs and offerings. All the materials are provided there for people. Once they're signed up, then you have access to all of the materials in one easy place. And that's something that has our other programs as well that we offer throughout the year. So that's exciting. Asia Pacific is picking back up the first Friday in August. And we're going to change the time to noon in Australia. So we'll put out some messages on that in our Asia Pacific group. I'll put my contact information, or you can send it to team@myancientsecrets.com and ask for more information about Asia Pacific. That's primarily for our friends in Japan, Australia, New Zealand, Singapore, Malaysia, etc. So for them, it's our Saturday morning to afternoon. It's about, I think, 4 o'clock in New Zealand on Saturday, where for us it's Friday evening. So that's kicking back up. This is we've been doing that since the Miracle Experiment game in 2020, I believe it was. And let's see, we also, I'll be kicking off the book launch in Hungarian is happening in Hungary for August the 6th. So Dr. Clint and Dr. Giovanni will be there kicking that off. So those are the most important announcements that we have for August. Jana?
Awesome. There's a lot going on. I love it. I I'm very excited about today because we're going to be talking about change. I mean, I don't know about you, but are you guys experiencing some change in your life? Are you being able to see? There is a lot of change happening right now, and we need to know how to navigate through that. Is anybody receiving that feedback, or is it just me? There's a feedback coming.
It's not feedback, it's a lot of noise. There we go.
Okay, perfect. I was able to get perfect. So one of the things I just wanted to share, I love Gary and I love Hope. They are amazing people, and their music is extremely healing for me. And I've heard from many of you that it's been healing for you, and their spoken word has been so amazing to be able to transform, change, and to be able to help with these changes and the challenges that come while we're experiencing the changes. Well, when I very first started with the miracle experience, I had just come out of a time where I had experienced a lot of change, and I wasn't really sure which way I wanted to go. And when I found the miracle experiment, when I found Dr. Clint, I signed up and was really excited about it. And the very first call that I was on, I heard Gary's music, and Gary's music was extremely healing to my soul. It broke me open, and it gave me hope again. I had a spiritual teacher. I had been going to a spiritual teacher because I had spent a lot of time in my life disassociated. Like many of us, we just kind of disassociate. We just kind of we're just not all the way connected. And I wanted to be more in my body, more present, more aware. And in this spiritual practice, I heard that she had said that music can unground you. And I didn't want to be ungrounded. And so I stopped listening to music. I had been singing, I had been playing the piano, I had the radio on the majority of the time. I mean, it was a major part of my life, but because I wanted to be connected and present and a spiritual person, I wanted to have, that part of life, I chose to do that. And when I listened to Gary's music, it opened me up, and I realized that music is life, and his music breathed life into me. And I started to be able to see a different way of living and understanding that sound is creation. I'm so deeply grateful for him and his incredible gift and talent. Now, joining with Hope, she has this amazing voice and this ability to be able to connect you with your heart. She has brought forth this infinity wave that is multidimensional, and you go to places with her meditations that are incredible. And I'm so excited for both of these two wonderful people who have been part of our community, well, pretty much since the beginning, because Gary was on all those calls and Hope joined. And I'm just so grateful to turn the time over to Hope Fitzgerald and Gary Malkin.
Well, thank you so much. It's nice to be in this community again. Hi, everybody. We're so excited to be able to share this. And I'm going to pull up our PowerPoint. But before I put it on, I just want to look at you all in the gallery and just say thank you for giving us the opportunity. And the way Hope and I want to have this be kind of understood is that this is about emotional and spiritual panchakarma. This is the extension of all of the physiological detox that is the Ancient Secrets brand, So we really want to stress that this is an extension, a logical extension of the magnificent work that Dr. Naram and Clint have brought forward. So Hope, you want to say anything before I put the PowerPoint on, or you want to just jump in?
Oh, I know. I just, first of all, it's great to see some familiar faces from Sedona and elsewhere. And I'm just thrilled to be with you again. We're going to be presenting a little fuller version of what we presented in Sedona. This is just a taste of a bigger thing that Gary and I have put together. So I'm excited to share it with more of you because for those who weren't in Sedona. So this is a treat.
Okay, let's get this show on the road. We spent quite a bit of time on this beautiful logo that we created. Like that little guy up there with all the shiny lights above him. So that's you. Okay, so here we are. We're here to talk a little about change, grief, death, love, and life. Now stick with us because at the end we guarantee you'll be feeling all kinds of love again. But to quote the magnificent Tina Turner, we want you to remember the song, what's love got to do with it? Here our answer is, like only everything. We let love guide us, and we let love guide us in every realm, not just the easy parts, because love can even, and maybe especially love, can guide us through the change of loss. Let's face it, aside from death and taxes, the other two guarantees are love and grief.
That's the thing. They walk hand in hand because if we're graced with even one loving moment, then automatically a door simultaneously opens to the potential for grief. Because, right, as soon as we love, we're at risk of losing that love. They walk hand in hand, not always at the same time, but often exactly at the same time. Who doesn't know the experience of losing someone, even as we love them, perhaps like never before? Isn't it precisely in the loss that our greatest appreciation can occur? Grief and love are inexplicably intertwined. As 𝗬𝗙𝗪𝗓 wrote so eloquently, your joy is your sorrow unmasked, and the selfsame well from which your laughter rises was often filled with your tears. And how else can it be? The deeper that sorrow carves into your being, the more joy you can contain.
So we could ask, what's grief got to do with it? We all know what to do with our love, right? I mean, this community is one of the most unconditionally loving communities I know. We express it, we nurture it, we sing and dance about it. The world is saturated with paths to achieve and express love. It's outwardly focused. That's the key distinction. But what are we to do with grief? There's very little instruction for the operating instructions for human beings, how to deal with grief. So it's inwardly oriented. I don't know about you, but that's been my focus. My whole life has been focused on bringing myself into a more balanced relationship with inward and outward. It's the cave dwelling, the yin to the yang of love. We want to get through grief as quickly as possible because, right, it doesn't feel that good.
Oh, it sure doesn't. But then you think, well, would we rush love? No, we would want to languish in it, right, for as long as possible. But grieving, we're not really allowed to in this society. Our culture is not set up to handle grieving. And, if you're feeling grief about something, it's most people don't want to listen to it for very long because it reminds them of their own grief. It's very uncomfortable. Yet the truth is that grief brings us together in our human experience every bit as much as love does, and maybe even more so at times. Without a roadmap for or understanding of the grief process, what we tend to do is, like Jana said, we stuff it, we disassociate, we avoid it, we resist our grief like crazy, or so we think, because in truth, this unacknowledged grief is driving our inner bus, unbeknownst to us. It's inhabiting all these nooks and crannies inside of us, without able to consolidate into an exit ramp. So grief will have its way with us, no matter what, whether we like it or not. And here's the thing that we're proposing, which might seem very radical, but what if we can figure out a way to welcome it with love as the change agent that it is? And this is a phrase you know very well, 𝗬𝗙𝗙𝗘𝗧𝗦.
Yeah. Yeah. So we're really proposing that an essential part of this emotional and spiritual detox that we're introducing is essentially connected to the 𝗬𝗙𝗙𝗘𝗧𝗦 phrase. To this end, we created our workshop that helps people navigate transitions of all kinds, providing this kind of panchakarma for the emotional and spiritual body. Just as a physical cleanse is necessary for the body's health, we believe that giving the emotional body its due leads to a healthier mental and heart-based state. I always talk about grief literacy as a kind of emotional flossing. You know, do we ever question that when we're at night before we go to bed and we want to floss the gunk between our teeth? What about the gunk in our interstitial fluid? The idea is that if we establish a dialogue with ourselves, confronting the truth of our bookend, we'll be better prepared when the time for grief arrives or when it's our time to leave this earthly realm. We believe that living with the end of mind enriches our daily experience with more gratitude and joy. So how do we get there?
This is the cool part. This is what we've put our heads together to create. We've called it the chrysalis process because it's a 4-step plan using Gary's incredible, the immersive power of his music and guided meditation to tenderly access the deepest waters for a transformative personal experience. Gary's exquisite musical sensitivity elevates our experience as it coaxes us, right, into these a deeper resonance with the heart. That's the key. So there are 4 stages of this. We're going to take you through the first one a little deeper and then just touch on stage 2 and 3, and then we'll flesh out a little bit stage 4. The 4 stages are 1.
Oh, wait, hold on. Oh, yes, sorry, go ahead. Oh.
1, releasing grief. 2, self-acceptance and forgiveness. And that's a really interesting one. 3, facing the mystery and cultivating awe. And 4, gratitude for the preciousness of life.
So I'm going to pull up this PowerPoint again because I wanted you to see what we prepared. And I also want to say, hope you give me way too much credit because it's the blend of our energies that is the magic sauce. It's not just my music, it's the transmissive power of dropping into the depth that you do with the assistance of the affinity wave. So you'll hear more about that, all of you. But here we go. So Panchakarma detox for the heart and soul. There we go. So here we go. I love this quote. And if any of you can have a chance to get any of Francis Weller's books, highly recommend it. He understands that grief is actually optimally processed and addressed in community contexts. So that's his special contribution. But listen to this. When our grief cannot be spoken, it falls into the shadow and arises in us as symptoms. By the way, can everybody please mute? Thank you. So many of us are depressed, anxious, and lonely. And many of us are depressed, anxious, and lonely without even necessarily knowing it. We struggle and find ourselves moving at a breathless pace, trying to keep up with the machinery, and might add even speed of culture.
So, the old 5 steps of stages of grief as outlined by Elizabeth Kubler-Ross. And I read her book when I was in high school, so these really stuck with me. But actually, that's not always the smooth path that we get. We get this jumbled path that you see on the right-hand side. The thing is that each loss that we have recalls earlier losses, so they sort of build over time. New grief stacks upon old grief, And often we just kind of go numb. And certainly over the last number of years, we've been asked to respond and respond and respond to all this barrage of change. And I have noticed, and I think maybe you have too, that lots of people are sort of walking around doing what they're supposed to be doing, but there's a numbness to them. And that was part of the motivation for Gary and I to put this together, because we want to bring people back, and we want to bring ourselves back into the full experience of life. So what happens with these stages of grief is they can all happen at the same time sometimes. And we also can have these weird symptoms that we don't associate, and I'll just name a few. We associate, of course, well, we feel sad, or we don't feel like eating, or we don't feel like going out, things like that. But it can also be a sort of mental scatteredness. It can be losing things. It can be losing track of time. There are so many symptoms of grief that we've maybe become used to and not even associating them as grief. And the other thing that can happen is that one symptom is that we have very strong reactions to seemingly small situations. Maybe they're little sadnesses that we have a big reaction to. That's a real red flag that there's some deeper grief hanging out in there. Go ahead.
And
Gary.
I want to add to that I was just interviewed by Hope this last week on the swing between self-importance, self-rejection, and the cultivation of humility. And for people like me, and I know I'm not alone, who have had struggles with an inner critic, when things get all jumbled like they do on this right side of the screen, people like me tend to think, well, what's wrong with me that everything's so jumbled and crazy, right? It's what happened to that nice 5-step process Elizabeth Kubler-Ross talked about. And you end up sometimes turning it upon yourself. What's wrong with me that things are so crazy? When it turns out this is the path of grief. It's unexpected, right? And it's unpredictable. Hold on, here we go.
So I think if we had to boil it down, there really are two stages of grief: who we are at the beginning and who we are on the other side of it. It's so I think the wisdom is to drop expectations about what it should look like, because it's highly individual for every person, and there is no time limit. However, and in the workshops that Gary and I have done, we're doing another one in August, which we'll tell you about later. But the one we did a live one a couple of months ago, and there were people there the grief that came up for them was 7 years old, 20 years old, really, really old stuff. So we just have to kind of accept that all of us have something in there, and coaxing it out is where we want to go. So go ahead, Gary.
Yeah, no, exactly. And before I go to the next slide, I just want to say, again, constantly trying to bring forth the metaphor between the physiological experience of detoxing and health and the emotional spiritual is that when I have pain in my shoulder or my knee or my back, it's often that we contract in the face of pain. And pain could not even be loss. It could be change itself. And so what if our resistance to these pains or loss or change, you can replace grief with any change in our pattern that we're not expecting or aware of, or that we didn't foresee. What if our resistance, that contraction that almost feels pre-verbal, right? It's like, and you immediately contract, right? What if that resistance is more a cause for our suffering than the actual facing of it? That means that we might actually be asked to be more awake to what a contraction in our heart and soul really feels like, right? So we all know this story because guess what? The Barbara Marx Hubbard calls it the noosphere. It's a way of describing the collective unaddressed grievances and losses and sorrows and dashed dreams that the human species faces since the beginning of time. And right now, if you are an intuitive like Hope, and I'm not an intuitive like Hope, you can imagine if there was a place that stored the amount of disappointment, woe, blues, heartache, sorrow, it's almost like it's like a overblown tick that sucked everything it could out of us. There's an energy on the planet today that is forcing us to find a way to assimilate grief, loss, and change in new ways because it's an unprecedented time that we all face, and we all know it intuitively with what's going on with climate change right now and all the heat. It's everywhere. So how can we show up to this in a new way? It's basically about, yeah, how can we show up?
This is back to this radical idea of 𝗬𝗙𝗖𝗔𝗡𝗚 Baba, that we could we, I guess it's a question, reframe grief as an initiation. What if, and I know for myself, there in deep grief, I have access to places within me that I don't usually have. It shakes me open in a way that's beyond my normal, operating system, let's say. Having a deathbed sentence, that kind of thing where, or not a deathbed, a diagnosis, or at the deathbed, there is this heightened clarity, this perceptivity that's really connected to the soul's desire, to the heart, to what really matters. And the other thing that can be revealed in the grief process is what those unloved aspects of ourselves are. The part that's maybe just a child that still needs some loving, that still needs some caring. This is a window that opens. This is why we're thinking of this as grief as an initiation.
And often the way to these words, shifting from the previous slide to this one, is it's almost like the ultimate marma is breath work, right? It's presencing ourselves with breath. We could often be a breath away from hopeful, grounded, loving, curious, peaceful, right? And so what if our capacity to use our breath to drop into the initiation, that it is within our power to make that shift in the way that many of the techniques Dr. Naram and 𝗬𝗙𝗙𝗧𝗦 have shared with us. Wouldn't that be amazing if we remembered that, right? So I'm just going to go on here. Because here's the deal. And especially for people like me who has struggled with self-doubt and criticism, self-criticism all the time, when you get a sense that something's wrong and you have a propensity to make the wrong symptom, like the bad knee or even an emotional spiritual thing, and make it about you, you compound the suffering, right? Because what if it's something that's much deeper and that you haven't dealt with when you were like 5 years old? But what if we trained our mind and our heart and our spirit to recognize that the wounds that we all share as part of the human experience are portals into our humanity? And this really wants to call forth the great work of 𝗬𝗙𝗧𝗏, who talked about like the animals, the moment a trauma happens, the rabbit goes into its den and shakes and it releases it. But we haven't learned that pattern. But if we remembered that our wounds were portals, what a monumental shift that would be in the way we focus on this. And this brings up that great phrase, ring the bells that still can ring. There is no perfect offering. There is a crack in everything. That's how the light gets in. And for those of you who saw me make a transition from being devastated about something at the Sedona workshop to having to pivot immediately to offering, again, service being the most beautiful healing of wounds, I had to serve the higher goal, which is to be there present with you all. But I had a crack in my heart, open and visible to everyone who could see it. And more light came in because I allowed my humanity to shine, right? Many people told me that was one of the most powerful things that happened. It wasn't fun for me, but it was very demonstrative on how the light gets in. And then basically, I love this picture, just opening yourself to the elements and this wonderful work. I'm telling you, when Brené Brown came into this world and she started to talk as a social researcher around the power of vulnerability, as the birthplace of our love and belonging and our innocence, right? Our empathy, our authenticity, all these qualities that have been attributed to feminine wisdom. What I say, who made that claim? This is human wisdom. This is the depth of our humanity is expressed through our vulnerability. So how can we reframe our wounds and our pains and our challenges as initiations into the power, the courage of our vulnerability, right? That is the mark of true courage.
Is it possible that grief happens for us, not to us? Ooh, that's a big shift, because it doesn't feel that way when it's happening. It feels like something out of our control is happening that we don't like. However, remembering back to an earlier slide, thinking of it as an initiation, that we are being asked to go through the knothole, or peduncle is the word I like to use. We'll describe that some other time, but it's through a transition to become different on the other side. So if we are really interested in our spiritual growth, right? If we know we came here as a soul to learn as much as possible, that even includes grief. And then we can lean in and ask, what is it about this grief? Can I even embrace this experience, even as it hurts? And realize that I'm not victimized in it, but maybe I could even become empowered. You know, it's kind of radical, but loss isn't something to be necessarily gotten over, but the idea is to learn to accept it. And I want to quote Susan Cain, who did a beautiful work called Bittersweet, and she talks about the difference between moving on versus moving forward. Moving on is sort of put it away, carry on with life. Moving forward is integrating the experience with all the lessons that were accumulated. The grief that opens the windows to deeper truths. And that truth, those truths enable our healing to occur. So I have found when I am able to use my grief, I am going on an inner journey to find the golden nugget, to find the thing that's at the center that is the lesson. And in that process, I am completely present in the moment. I'm not in the past or future. I'm right with myself in this search. Next slide, Gary.
Yeah, I just want to say one thing. For those of you, ever since Graceful Passages came out 20 years ago, which those of you might not know what it is, check it out. Graceful Passages, a companion for living and dying, everywhere available. People who weren't aware of the loss they were experiencing would say, well, that's for other people, right? But so if you are one of those people that are not actually experiencing a loss that you're aware of, then replace the word grief with change or transition. What if, and this is now again a direct relationship to 𝗷𝗙𝗘𝗧𝗦. And I hope, just in case there are people on the call that don't know what 𝗷𝗙𝗘𝗧𝗦 is, just reiterate that as I change this slide.
Well, it's welcoming the guest at the door, no matter what that guest looks like, knowing that there is a purpose for that guest. And that's as succinctly as I can say it. I'm sure others could say it better. But here we're going to talk a little bit about the alchemy of grief. And I do see it as an alchemical process. This is where it's a journey. It's a mysterious journey. And it's something that we can't escape in this life. It's part of the deal. And it will change us forever. What I like to think about the story of Persephone, who did not want to go into the underworld at all, but she was sort of, not yet, Care. She was hijacked and taken down there. And what she did in the underworld was she learned the ways of the underworld, and then she found her power in the underworld. And she sort of changed things around, moved the furniture, and became a queen of the underworld. And when she came back to the surface of the earth, she was completely different. She had grown into herself, into her sovereignty, into her power. And so that is a beautiful metaphor for this alchemical process that we have in our human DNA. This is part of our blueprint for being human beings. Go ahead, Gary. So one of the things that happens, and you may all relate to this, is that we can tend to get into this cycle of suffering where we go around and around and around and around. And one of the things I heard not too long ago was, when we, especially if somebody has departed, whether it be a loved one or someone we had a difficult relationship with, even maybe we loved them and we had a difficult relationship with them, we might go into a shoulda, coulda, woulda. Oh, if I'd only said this, or I'd only been at the deathbed, or if I'd only done this, or if they had only loved me more, if that, whatever it is. It's what was reframed for me not long ago was that is actually a way of staying connected to the person. It's kind of staying in conversation with them. It doesn't necessarily feel like that in the moment, but I thought that was a fascinating way to look at it. What are some other things that can keep us in this cycle of suffering? Well, when we can't forgive, when we have resentment and disappointment from unmet expectations, fear keeps us in a cycle of suffering. So these are obviously prison forming, and we're all about freedom. So Gary, next slide.
Well, and also trauma that is sudden, often because we're trying to catch up with what's happening, we go in a vicious cycle, replaying the accident, for example, in slow motion in our minds. It's another vicious circle.
So what we'd like to do is to move into the freedom of the spiral, just lifting that circle up so that it starts to move out and through us. This is what our workshop is intended to do.
Exactly.
Go ahead, Gary.
And this next film that you're about to see is an excerpt from the version of Thrive 2 that I scored when I released it September 2020. For those of you who really want to see these films, you go to freetothrive.com, and they're magnificent films that have an extraordinary eye-opening quality and the best conversation starters that I've ever seen. And I want you to just see that we're now moving into how do you do this, right? Well, if we can cognitively understand when we use these techniques, just imagine that your body, your interstitial fluid, is the fluid you're about to see in this cymatics exercise. I'll explain this to you. So what you're about to see is a way that demonstrates that if this is true for outer oils or sands or whatever, what if we could actually attune ourselves to flow geometry and to generate
It's more than that, Gary. I'm sorry to interrupt you.
Go, no, please interrupt.
But we are water. We are absolutely water. We're 80 to 90, depending on your age, between 80 and 90% water. So this actually does physically, and then by way of our mind, body, spirit, emotionally and spiritually, it affects us.
And this obsession our culture has with reductionism and the mechanistic view of the body that, they're all separate pieces. It immediately goes out the window when you realize that cymatics, it happens in our body at every scale of cellular structure. So look at this video and you'll see what I mean. I have to always press the button. There we go.
The way to access this source field of energy appears to be through stillness, sometimes called the 0 point. Stillness is not static. It's a state of harmonic resonance, a rhythmic, balanced interchange of energy. With energy frequencies, the state of complete balance functions like a straw. It intersects with the stillness at the center of each torus in the field, tapping into its pure potential. Stillness is a portal for accessing boundless electricity developing healing technologies, expanding consciousness, or simply finding peace of mind. Energy moving creates sound, only some of which is in our human range of hearing. The unified field theory proposes that sound waves at different frequencies are what shape energy from the field into matter. We can see this phenomenon unfold in nature when sound waves interact with any form of matter, for example, fluid or sand. Acoustic pressure reliably creates specific.
Oh, and sorry about that. It's supposed to go on and show these amazing sacred geometric patterns, and imagine that that's your interstitial water, the water in your body. Sorry about that. Here we go. So this is the principle by which music, and beautiful music, music that inspires flow, operates within our bodies. And I love this quote by 𝗤𝗓𝗘𝗧𝗦 that talks about the experience of beauty as a homecoming, right? It's not something very, like the doily on the plate. It's the digestive enzyme that enables us to assimilate meaning, depth, healing. Beauty becomes a delivery system and a catalyst that helps us feel good and remember who we really are. Expressions of the sacred geometric flow. Because of all arts, I'm going to let you just let this music now extend your breath a little bit and go beyond the intellect. And as you do, ponder this. Vibrations of this music are going in your ear, inviting your heart and soul to drop into the present moment. Breathing, and in this music, everything gets extended. Because when we experience humanity, our life, nature, this moment, more directly and consciously with our heart, and when we can combine our cognitive capacity with our heart's ability to change the geometry of our interstitial fluid and our organs, what's possible? So take a deep breath. Just close your eyes for a minute and let the music complete. And watch and feel and imagine your cells forming into sacred geometric pattern right at this moment. And when we do that, even the most challenging obstacles can melt away.
Yeah, it does it every time, Gary. You just hear that music and we just go into a different place. So beautiful. So this is a symbol that represents a bunch of things. I call it the infinity wave, but you can see that it also, in its perfect balance, as the figure 8, as the stand-in for the infinity idea, it is the yin and yang of love and grief. The thing about this visual and this geometry is that it is ever expanding, ever contracting. This is the natural flow, I believe, of all things, of the universe at large. And this is, in a sense, calling it the infinity wave. This is something that came to me in a series of visions 12 years ago, 13 years ago now. And it was introduced to me as a tool for evolution and a way to more easily, more gracefully navigate the changes that I was told were coming 13 years ago. And we are in those times now. We have been in those times, and they are going to continue. So inherent in this watery figure 8 that you see, imagine that there is a 10th dimensional level of love and compassion. And you don't really need to know more than the fact that it's very, very highly refined love and compassion. And when we use the wave, we are offering that love and compassion both to ourselves and to others. There's a whole way to work with this. I'm going to demonstrate it in the next meditation, but we'll just keep it simple for now, okay? It's a tool for shifting consciousness, and it isn't a religion or anything like that. It stands beside any philosophy or spirituality. It's a booster. Let's think of it as that. All right. So,
All right.
you know, when we talk about grief, it can feel like a deep lake. But I'm going to suggest that we instead view it as a river, because a river is flowing somewhere. This is moving from that endless cycle of suffering, which would be a lake, into the release, which is the water. And
So, Hope,
see,
would you like me to just play the music so that people see your face while you're doing this, or should we keep the slides up?
I would keep the slide up.
All right. Okay. All right. Well, then
But what
go ahead. Then
I
you
just
tell me when you want me to turn the music on. You let me
I
know.
sure will. Thank you. So I just want to preamble this with saying we are going to humbly open a space for grief in understanding that the way to release is through it. It's through the grief. And remember that we can't be in resistance and in peace at the same time. So we're going to opt for peace today, all right, in this next meditation. All right, Gary, I'm ready when you are. Turn it down a little bit, please. Thank you. All right, everybody. Let's get comfortable and let's take a deep, deep breath. And I'm going to ask you, please, to imagine that you have a tube running from the crown of your head down through your sacrum, right through your body. And that tube actually extends up above your head and down into the earth. So when we take a deep breath, I'd like you to imagine that we breathe from the heart center, exhaling down through the tube into the ground. And then we breathe back up from the earth, from beautiful Gaia, all the treasures that she offers us each and every day, up into your heart center. And we just breathe like that back and forth in every exhale, emptying out whatever is heavy. You don't have to name it, just offering it. And breathing back up into your heart those beautiful gifts from Mother Gaia. And now let's shift the focus to breathing up. Gary, the sound has stopped. Breathing from your heart center up and out like a fountain through the crown. And inhaling from above and around you all that beautiful light and love and consciousness into your heart center. And just doing that a few times. Good. All right, now let's imagine that your body is getting heavier and heavier. Letting each limb drop away, relaxing more and more deeply. Settling down. Now, imagine you are lying in a small boat on a quiet, deep blue river at twilight. And this is comfortable because you are lying on beautiful cushions that are there for you. Above you is the twilight sky, with the light diminishing in the west, providing a golden glow on the horizon. To the east, the sky darkens and deepens, and a small star begins to emerge. There is a hush across the landscape as your boat floats aimlessly, gently pulled here and there by a puff of breeze. Surrounding you are fields and forests. Birds fly overhead, settling in for the night. And you are held in the comfort of your little boat, relaxing deeper and deeper into those lovely cushions. Here, you can finally let go. Whatever has accumulated has been stored up in your being may now arise in the safety of your vessel and the knowing of the river. Whatever has gnawed at you, whatever losses, worries, mistakes, resentments, regrets, lost opportunities, all come now to the surface for release. Give them to the river. For the river can contain whatever you hold. Let them go, knowing you will still be you afterwards. For there is no grief that can extinguish your flame. Whatever has haunted you, perhaps for your entire life, now can be brought right up to the surface safely. Let the memories roll as they present themselves, and give them to the river. Let them float to the surface of you and out into the watery flow. The river knows all, and the river moves things along while holding you in love. As you allow this process, which has been needed for so long, wave after wave floods your consciousness, finding its way to the river. Things you wish you'd said or didn't say. All find the river. Emptying out now as the sky gets dimmer and darker. You reach a point of emptiness. Free now from all those encumbrances. Opening your eyes to the skies, to see the stars shining ever so brightly upon you. As you drift on the river and you receive the abundance, the benevolence of the universe surrounding you. Presence all around you of love and acceptance. Here you are a simple human being, yet so much more. The unencumbered you glows like a torch in the night. And a peace comes over you of simply being a part of the magnificent matrix of love, of light, of Gaia, of the entirety of creation. Floating now in the awe of life. Wrap yourself from head to toe in a brilliant infinity wave, that figure eight of flowing water, around your crown, down to your feet, crossing at the midline. And accept deep into your being the love and compassion within it. Drink in the watery flow into every cell. From the higher realms, the love and compassion they bring you. Renewing you, refueling you, moving into the places you just made available by emptying out. Finding all the nooks and crannies where grief and old stories used to reside and filling them instead with love and compassion. The wave removes judgment of yourself, of others, and brings peace, knowing that all is as it should be. You may now wish to sit up in your little boat, looking around, and by the light of the moon, Notice that your boat has begun to move downstream gently, knowing its destination, gliding through a rising mist. The beauty of the world is almost too much to take in. And a great gratitude for this moment moves into your heart. Gratitude for this gift of life. And the boat glides, bearing you brilliantly to the shore. The moon rises higher to light your way into your life as you emerge on land, unburdened, whole, and complete.
I have to pull off the PowerPoint for a minute, and after an experience like that, and just, we are going a little longer than we thought, Jana, but it will be within the period. I'm speechless by the power of alchemy and synergy that represented, and I just love you guys to comment in the chat whether that gave you some guidance in terms of what unburdening can be like. What was that like for you? Just let us know a little bit in the chat. I feel like when you touch the holy energy like that, it's important to acknowledge and drop in and feel and together look in each other's eyes and just acknowledge that kind of experience is pretty special. Thank you, Hope. That was just so beautiful. And the thing is, it's so amazing is it's never over. The body keeps the score, right? And who knows, even epigenetically or multi-generational trauma, like the Jewish diaspora that I grew up with, and was programmed in long before I had any experience in this world at all. We all carry this. So what if grief literacy was something we learned from the earliest age? Like kindergarten, somebody steps on your toy and you have a process that recognizes, oh, I'm so sorry. Let's have compassion for that party that wishes you had that toy, or whatever. It becomes a necessary human skill. Does anybody have, oh, here we go, a lot of new messages. I didn't even see it come in. Yeah, just read, let's just say any one, just to be present. Beautiful, magnificent, thank you, tingling all over my body, pure, that was special, unburdening, awesome. Thank you, Clarice. Yeah, this, remember you can save, I'm going to save this text because it's so beautiful. Yeah, that was gorgeous. Well, so you just experienced the kind of a heartbeat of Module 1. The heartbeat of Module 1 that we'll be doing in 2 modules on Saturday the 19th and 2 modules on number 3 and 4 on Sunday the 20th of August and the first one 19th. And as you can tell, this kind of work, it takes, like as Angeles Arian says, healing doesn't happen in the fast lane. And Lord knows when we do panchakarma and we can't leave anywhere further away than the bathroom, we know that there's a process we have to show up for, or else we'll be pretty sorry about that, right? And this panchakarma of the heart and soul requires attention and time and love and presence as well. So we do have more, and we're going to have to compress it because we want to have a few questions, but let's just go back to it's important. It's almost like what happens is we've unburdened ourselves, but it's almost like opening up in an operation. And now what's possible now? what's possible now. That's what's so exciting, is what's possible now. And if you want to read anything in the chat while I'm bringing this back up, it's fine. Here we go. Slideshow. Bear with me.
This next section is a natural offshoot of having released and gotten in touch with some of that old grief or young grief, whichever kind of grief it is how do we actually finish it off? Because a lot of times they're unsaid things. They're dangling participles, I call them, of relationships. So we want to be able to move into forgiveness. But it's not forgiveness the way we've often been taught it. There was a practice of forgiveness that was given to me in quite a profound experience 12 years ago that taught me this completely different way of forgiving, and it's a multi-layered way. And of course, I use the infinity wave in it, but it has been so effective at completing whatever wasn't left, what still had a gap in it and needed that final period put at the end of the sentence, so to speak. So our second module deals with forgiveness, and in that process there is also a great deal of self-acceptance and self-love. It's hard to explain, you have to go through it, but that is the next module of this, and we found it to be incredibly effective.
Well, what I want to say about this, if I may, Hope, is just that nature abhors a vacuum, right? So when we've unburdened ourselves with these profound things that sometimes come literally when we invite them into in this process that we just did, it was so beautiful, Hope, so beautiful, that then what happens is the forgiveness that Hope is talking about can emerge from a fertile ground of self-acceptance and self-love that is a deep humility that arises as we forgive ourselves and others. And it turns out to be a very important component. And that's the next step. I'm looking for my place. I'll just go on to the next.
And then the third step is, now that we're really opened, we're deep into the process, that is a perfect time for us to step with courage to embrace the awe of the mystery, the things that so much we actually don't know. But this is an opportunity to look straight at it. And this includes our ultimate leave taking of this physical form. We don't usually take time to sit down and think about that or to experience it. So in this third piece, we go deep and we have an experience of being sort of disconnected from our body and in the mystery itself. And it's quite powerful and life-changing, actually, because it frees us. We get to get free of the fear that we've been just sort of holding it behind the door. We haven't been looking at it because we're too scared to. But here we have figured out a way to safely and lovingly venture into these mysteries.
Well, and this is also related to what we've often, but just such an important part of the Ancient Secrets community, which is what happens that Dr. Naram modeled around being volunteering, helping the homeless. What in many ways, that kind of volunteering and helping for the greater good is getting out of the way and being portals of the divine. And that's why people say that when they volunteer, they have this sense of connection to meaning and purpose, right? Well, it's not unlike when I sit at the piano, have no idea what I'm going to play, and I step aside and something comes through, and I am a grain of sand acting as a portal of mystery itself. I have no idea what's going to come through me. It's very similar to what happens when you're feeding the poor or the homeless. It's stepping out of the way and becoming portals, and we then become an embodiment of the mystery, right? We become the mystery.
Yeah. And I just want to, before we go on to stage 4,
okay, sorry.
I just want to say the reason that we offer these experiences like we just had in every aspect of our workshop is because we don't usually change just from what we're thinking, our cognitive mind, right? We change through direct experience. So
Exactly.
that's why we offer all this. Okay, go ahead, Gary.
Exactly. I mean, that's so important, right? And that's why our mission to really extend the Panchakarma physiological journey to an essential part of the energetic aspects of our heart and soul is, to me, what our mission is to really have all physiological processes of healing include these emotional and spiritual processes, that music and beauty have an essential role to play in the destiny of its journey to bring us home, right? So as a way to really be practical, these are some suggestions we want to offer about because a beautiful realization came when Hope and I were preparing this for you. I started this project called What Makes Your Heart Sing with Bruce Cryer, one of the founders of HeartMath. And we're actually bringing it out of the woods and going to start doing it again online on September 15th for the Nursing Way. I'm excited about it, but we're bringing What Makes Your Heart Sing back. And what I realized was, what makes your heart sing, harnessing the power of bliss and passion and what it is we're in love with for optimal performance, is the cousin or the sister to what do you want? How can you answer what do you want? The famous question that Dr. Naram posed to us. If you don't know what makes your heart sing. So as you engage in writing, go to nature, connect with friends, write a poem, read a poem out loud at dinner before you start dinner instead of grace, meditate, sing spontaneously in the shower, as you look at beautiful visuals, as you find your purpose. These are all things that are being-based, human being, rather than human doing. They are doing, but they're doing that requires, like as they say in Las Vegas, you must be present to win. So these are things that when you embody your actions with your intention to be free, magic happens, and awe happens, and self-forgiveness happens. You want to add anything before I change the slide, Hope?
No, you said it all.
All right, great. So we're going to complete this with a musical experience because we believe, like what Hope said, that this isn't just a cognitive journey. This is a direct experience. So normally, you guys have heard this track before that I normally play called Open-Hearted Man. I decided to choose another track that I produced and arranged with the famous spiritual teacher from the East Coast, 𝗔𝗡𝗖𝗥𝗘𝗧𝗦. And I want us to actually, I want to actually get off. I'm going to play this track rather than look at a visual because I'd love to do random spotlighting, Jaina, if we can. I'm going to bring this up, and I want to. I'm just going to stop the share. I want us to see the beauty of this community as we listen to this music, because one of the things that you can trust is that if you're feeling alone, then you're in separation and you're actually not in flow, right? So another sign of grief that isn't addressed is when you feel separate and alone, because it's not the truth of your experience. It's that famous first quote in the Course of Miracles. I don't know it by heart, but it's like, it's not real. Nothing real, unreal exists, right? So I'm going to play this track. And again, as medicine, as if we're around a big fire together, let's celebrate our unity, that we're never alone. This song, it was spoken from the perspective of the divine herself. Here we go. I'm going to play this himself or herself, however you think of it. I'm going to play the audio here. And this is the completion of our thing. And then we'll do a few Q&As as time permits. But here we go. And here we go.
When I ask why, you always say to me, why do you talk as if you're alone? I'm always with you, no matter the time or day. You are never alone. Never alone, my dear, never alone. Never alone, my dear, you're never alone. Never alone, my dear, you're by yourself, but you're never alone. And when I cry, you always comfort me. You say, let those tears just roll on by. And then I feel your arm around me. You are never, 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 never alone. Never alone, my dear. Never alone. Never alone, my dear. You're never alone. Never alone, my dear. Never alone. You might think you're by yourself, but you're never alone. You turn your face to me and lift me up so high that I can see that I am always with you, never apart from you. Where I walk, you always walk with me. Never alone, my dear. Never alone, never alone, my dear. You're never alone. Never alone, never alone, my dear. Never alone. You may think you're by yourself, but you're never alone. 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 I'm never apart from you. Oh, never alone. Never alone. Never alone. You turn your face to me. You turn your face to me. Oh, never alone. Oh, never alone. Oh, never alone. Never alone. Never alone, never alone.
Oh God, that was so beautiful to see all your gorgeous faces. My God, I love that. Thank you. Can we bring Hope up with me, Jana, and we'll just do a completion and maybe we can answer just a couple of questions. Is that okay, Jana? And then maybe you'll break into groups as you normally do after to help give people a chance to talk about their experience a little bit. Would be amazing for those people that can stay. I love that function because we need each other and we need, during COVID, I never forget, I called it COVID share. I couldn't stop talking because I was alone and had to talk to somebody. And I realized I had to be emptied. So Hope, wasn't that perfect way to end the session?
I just adore that so much. It was fantastic. And to
I
see
know.
everybody's faces, oh my gosh.
I know.
It's really true. We're not alone. And this is such a beautiful community. You guys have built something really special here.
Truly,
Really something.
truly. So Sharon had a raised hand and Susan Engman had a raised hand. So Sharon, you've been raised hand for a while. So are you still here? And I don't know which Sharon that is, but I'm
Yeah,
sure you could.
I'll go ahead and bring her back onto the spotlight with you guys.
Okay.
There's Susan
Oh, that's Susan.
and Joseph.
Okay. Oh,
And
Joseph.
Joseph.
You have a question, Joseph?
No, but if I may, first off, thank you, love you both. And I think everyone was graced with a beautiful experience, and it was experience. So thank you for that. If I may just tag on an additional concept that I was given in a similar space like this, is the idea of, he called it a living loss, meaning, not like I lost my brother, but maybe I lost a part of me, something that maybe a body part, maybe something I used to be able to do that I grieve and live with. And it's an ongoing living loss. And I am challenged with, coming to terms and peace with all of that. So I just, for anybody who may share something like that, I'm going to incorporate this process with something that is still ongoing. And
yes.
So
Yeah.
thank you for that.
Just pursuant to that, Joseph, I won't say who it is because it was a private to me, but someone sent a private message saying, I am still in the boat releasing. I feel cracked open and tears are not stopping. Pancha karma for the soul. That was what somebody's chat was. And that is such a testament to what you just said, Joseph. And the acceptance of loss and grief being these two sides of one coin of life itself is such an affirmation of what you just said. Thank you for that share.
Yeah, it's an eternal river.
Yeah, exactly. Devananda, Daniel, oh, I saw you in the spotlighting. It was so good to see you. Are you there? There. Hey, brother. How are you,
Hey,
gorgeous?
how are
How are
you?
you, gorgeous man?
Thank you. Thank you. It's always amazing to listen to you and Hope. And at this time, listening to both of you, I was amazed to see that I lived in grief for 27 years and I didn't even know. I moved here and I didn't lose anybody, but I moved to US when I was 22. And I missed my family so much. And I lived all these years carrying the weight of this pain of separation. And only recently I start to realize that I needed to do something about it. And when we spoke today, I realized that was exactly that kind of grief I was living. And even afraid to lose I have my parents alive, thanks God, but I always afraid that something will happen. I'm far away from them. And all the symptoms that you were mentioning, drain of energy, all those things, anything can be very big, any little thing. I have lived all those things. And these, the gift that comes with it is to make me find ways to know myself and opening doors for me to discover my strengths. So it is beautiful and it's very actually comforting to hear this and see that it's part of the human process and there is nothing wrong with me.
Yeah, right.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. Wow. Thank you. I'm taking notes, like you said. Thank you.
Yeah, and because we have a time thing, we only have very little time, so because I want to make sure that we honor commitment. So Sharon, your hand was raised a long time ago. Hi, dear. Hold on. Yeah,
Okay.
hi, dear.
Oh,
Yeah, we can hear you.
okay. Anyway, I was going to say, I had butterfly experience this week, so I thought it was interesting that you started with the cocoon thing. And I think my greatest failing is I don't cry, and I actually did a little bit this morning. And then when you started, when I was a little girl, I had a little boat, and I felt like you made this whole thing just for me. Of course you did. And then the last 3 years, I'm sure I'm the only one that the last 3 years have been intense for, but this summer I just said, this is it. This is my summer to rest and digest. And I'm going to take the month of August to just grieve. So thank you. I probably will be replaying your replaying this every day. So
Yes, and join us for the 19th if you can of August. And by the way, just shameless self-promotion, there's a 50% off discount for this community if you register for 𝗬𝗢𝗙𝗥, if you register before the 30th, you can actually get 50% off our training program, this 2-day thing we're doing August 19th. And so please go to the website. I think that there's, somebody will put the link, 𝗬𝗢𝗙𝗥.com. But we made a special deal for the Ancient Secrets community, and we really, really hope that, because you guys, we owe so much to you and to Clint and Dr. Naram and the team, because our dream is to extend in America, like we're spiritual beings on a human journey, right? So what if it was mainstream that we're spiritual beings on a human journey? And that panchakarma for the heart and soul in this culture that's so obsessed with weight and exercise and physiological change. What if we had a world that honored that you couldn't do one without the other? That's the world we're co-creating together. And I just feel like it's a perfect marriage between what Ancient Secrets is attempting to do and what we're trying to do. And thanks to be riding on your coattails. We have only a minute, but Shefra, please.
Yeah, that was such a powerful experience. I just can't tell you, because I often feel like I am the most emotional person. I often feel like there's no answer to my grief. There's a sense of woundedness that I feel a lot of shame about, that I just can't seem to heal. And I'm and there's often just not a lot of places where you start crying and people don't know what to do with it often. And it was just very powerful, because I was in so much pain, and it just really, like, as I did it, I just felt like a release of it. It was truly extraordinary. I just can't thank you enough for that, truly.
Oh, well, thank yourself for opening yourself to the experience, because we are the ones that have the key to unlock our receptivity.
That's
And if
true.
we are doing a 𝗔𝗙𝗖𝗑𝗧𝗦 on the cellular level, then what happens is what you just described, Shifra, with your willingness, your choice, your cooperation was the key to making that happen. So I really want you to look in the mirror when you thank
you.
us.
Thank you. I appreciate that so much.
Yeah, great. I think we need to end, so we want to break into groups or something. Janet, do you want to say anything, or does the team want to say anything to us? Because we really want to honor, we're pushing the time here.
Yes, no, you're so great. I'm going to ask Cornelia if she can set up the breakout rooms. But I just wanted to share my gratitude for you, to both of you. I mean, in the very beginning, I mentioned how incredible I really love both of you, and you guys have just taken it to a whole new level today. The dimension that I experienced while in that meditation was absolutely astounding.
Wasn't it?
It was like so much presence and so much dimension inside of what Hope was speaking, and the combination between Hope's incredible meditation and Gary's beautiful inspired music. It was absolutely astounding what happened here today. It was so sacred.
I just want to also, shameless self-promotion, when you go to wisdomoftheworld.com to the store, there's an album called The Chrysalis. And we named this album The Chrysalis, and it's Hope's favorite meditation music. And it's that, and she tracks it now so that the synergy between what she was doing in this meditation was positively cinematic, my dear Hope. It was so beautiful how your familiarity with that track is so intimate now that wherever you were in the meditation matched the energy of the track musically as a film composer would score it, which was freaking amazing for me to witness. So thank you.
It really was. I wanted to say one more thing because I
Yeah.
received a message from a beautiful friend today who had done a lot of the I'm not going to say panchakarma, but a lot of the ancient secrets. And what she realized is that she needed to do the emotional healing. And that's what the ancient secrets teaches, is that there's a balance between all, you know, the spiritual, the mental, the emotional, and the physical. And so this component is so beautiful because it is needed for, you know, like Devananda said, you know, there's so many of us that are grieving and we don't even know it, you know, but with the way that the world is, that's what's kind of infused into our space. So thank you. Anyway.
Dana,
Yeah.
and that is it. We're grieving whether we know it or not. So giving it an opportunity to exit is awesome. I just want to say a little shameless self-promotion myself. I do free Monday night meditations with Gary's music. They are channeled. I never know what is going to be said at 7:30. So if you're interested in that, come on over to spreadinfinitehope.com and sign up, and we'd love to have you.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you. Thank you, Jaina, Carol, and everybody.
Cornelia.
I just want to say, I
Cornelia.
think I got the code wrong in the letter I had from you, Gary. Mine had Ancient Secrets 2. Your email says Ancient Secrets 23, which makes more sense. So the code is Ancient Secrets 23. Is that right?
Right, exactly.
Yes, and I
Sorry,
just-
the copy
my
and
fault.
paste missed it. Anyway, that's okay.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Whoever, whatever, but it's in the chat now.
Yeah,
Perfect. Thank you. Ignore mine. Use his.
And I just want us to, are we going into groups for those that can stay? I mean,
Yeah,
to
I'm looking
breakouts?
for Cornelia, but I'm not seeing her. So you know what? I'll go ahead and set them up.
All right,
And
well,
I'll-
if make that available so that people who
Already
want it.
setting them up. I was
Oh,
just
good.
waiting.
And again, I just want to say a deep gratitude to my brother, Dr. Clint. Honestly, what I said in this interview, in the recent interview that Hope did for me, was Clint was the one that gave me the unconditional love I never received as a child. And so in these last 13 years since I've known him, Clint was one of the instrumental people that helped me understand how I could love myself unconditionally, which is why I had such a breakdown at the Sedona. I did some parent projection on Clint, because part of me was literally, he was one of my lifelines, right? And now that I'm releasing him from that role, it's just pure gratitude for how he has been like a scaffolding for my capacity to love myself. And that's what Clint was for me before the book came out, well, long before the book. So I love you, Clint, and will always be indebted to you for what you've given me and for this community. And I love you all. And as the phrase goes, Hope, 1, 2, 3, I love you, and I'm with you.
With you.
I love you, and I'm with you.
Yes, if we would all like to unmute and say that. We can rub our hands together. Thank Gary and Hope for this beautiful experience.
Thank you, Gary. Thank you. I love you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Gary.
Thank you, Gary. I'm with you. I'm with you.
And I'm with you.
And I'm with you.